defender. We are going to be recording. If you have questions, if you can try to put those in the chat for us. And Bersha has agreed to stay and answer questions for at least a little bit after. I'm Terry Johnson. I'm one of the assistant juvenile defenders with the Office of the Juvenile Defender, and I am going to introduce our speaker today, Bersha Hensley. So she is now an assistant public defender with the Juvenile Division of the Wake County Public Defender's Office, having left OJD a short time ago. We're sad about that. But having been an assistant juvenile defender with us, she is very familiar with doing all of these presentations for us, and she has kindly agreed to present today on enterprise justice and a lot of the issues that we're having with that. She is a board-certified specialist in criminal law, juvenile delinquency, and a longstanding member of the advisory board for Southern Youth Defender Center. Y'all, if you haven't been to one of those conferences, Bersha helps put those together. They are amazing, so just a little plug there. She is from Cary, North Carolina originally. She went to NC State University, where she graduated in 2007 with a Bachelor of Science in Business Management. Before attending law school, she worked for a preschool for nearly 7 years, working with children of all different ages and abilities. So you can see she has a long-standing interest in juvenile delinquency, behavior issues, all of the best interest type issues for our kids. Even though we do express interest, she is a long-standing advocate for juveniles across the board. She graduated from Campbell School of Law in 2012 and was admitted to the state bar the same year. She practiced in Marshall, North Carolina in her own firm for a number of years before becoming a contractor with OJD and juvenile delinquency contracts in 2016. And then from there came to the Juvenile Defender's Office, and then from there again to Wake County Public Defender's Office. So with that, y'all, she is a technical guru as well. She's good at all the technology things. So if you have questions through this, again, please put them in the chat for us. I know I saw one and I'll get to it in just a second. Okay, so we did have one question from Melissa. What do we need to do to make sure we get CLE credit? Just for everyone's information, just make sure that you actually registered for the course and that when you did, you put in your bar number. If you did not, we will be sending an email out after the presentation is done with a link to evaluate the course and also for any additional questions that you might have. So if you didn't already put your bar number in, please do it in that email.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. What a heck of an was being recorded. I'll be good. What a great introduction. Yeah, I'm going to try to talk to you guys about enterprise justice, how it relates with juvenile court, but realistically, the only true qualification I think I have to talk about this is my curiosity and love of technology. I don't have anything that's like any kind of special training or anything. I was in Wake County, so when it first rolled out, I was part of that first group of rollout for enterprise justice, but I figured it out on my own. So here, let me just jump in. Here's what I want to try to go over in the next hour. I want everybody to try to at least have a fundamental working knowledge of this thing we're calling Tyler Technologies Enterprise Justice System. It includes, Odyssey, Portal, eFile, all those things. I do want to tailor our talk today about what it means for people working in the delinquency courtroom, the nuances of the technology with delinquency cases. And then by the end of it, I hope you will have a toolkit.
But I'm not.
I hope you will have a toolkit of strategies and tips for basically being able to efficiently use enterprise justice to benefit your young clients as well as avoiding pitfalls. So 100 different counties, 100 different ways to do this. Every clerk's office has their own processes. So one of the things that you can use the chat for, and because I'm sharing full screen, I won't necessarily see it, but other people will. Feel free to put in the chat when your county does something differently. I think it's important that we learn from each other. AOC and Tyler Technologies has done what they can to try to teach us, but this project overall has been kind of figuring it out as we go. So our defender community is important to try to make sure we have a knowledge base. All right, so here's your background. We started with session law 2015. It's House Bill 97 from all the way back in 2015. That is 11 years ago at this point, where this idea of accessibility in e-courts came into play. The North Carolina Commission on the Administration of Law and Justice, that's a mouthful, recommended developing an e-court strategic technology plan, another mouthful, as well as integrated case management system. They did a report in 2017. It was technically their technology committee report that came out with all the details. And fun fact, that report also recommended raising the age. So a lot of things are going on during that time, and during 2017. So the powers that be said, okay, we're doing this. They put out a request for proposal. And in 2019, Tyler Technologies was awarded a $100 million 10-year contract to do this thing called what we were calling e-courts. Tyler beat out 6 other companies, including, and I'm not sure if I pronounced this right or not, but Thomson Reuters. I think they're the ones that do Westlaw. And Tyler was all big on, you know, we're used by courts and police agencies in 27 other states. So Tyler got the contract. And just so you guys know, the things that we're seeing, the e-court stuff that we see where we file and all that, it's actually not the first piece of the e-courts project. The guide and file launched in August of 2020. So, and that was designed to help filling out forms and stuff that are used commonly by pro se litigation people. Things like uncontested divorces, name changes, DVPOs, small claim matters. So the e-courts actually started before our filing system and portal and all these things. You guys have all seen this map. When the filing and seeing of the cases piece of e-courts went live, we did it in tracks. We started with track 1, which included Wake County. So it was originally planned for launch in July of 2021. It got delayed until October 10th, 2022. Finally, February 13th of 2023, it was actually launched. It was absolutely not smooth sailing. It was launched again in October of 2023 in Mecklenburg County. And what we couldn't screw up, that's not the right word. What we couldn't, okay, Mecklenburg did it for us. They were the ones at this point, everybody that had started using it was really frustrated. It was not working. Mecklenburg went as far as filing a suit against Tyler Technologies. So in Wake County, back in Wake County, before Mecklenburg even went live in February of 2023, the day that we went live, there's actually a lot of news coverage about these issues that were going on. A gentleman by the name of Christopher Clegg pled guilty to second-degree trespassing in Wake County in district court, and he got a time served for the day that he'd already been in custody. He was not released. He was not released the next week. And then his attorney, I think, had to bring him back into court a second time, plead guilty again to the same thing. And he was again sentenced to time served. And I think there was an issue even then. So that was in the news. In March of 2023, Harnett County ended up closing its district courtrooms for an entire week because things were just getting so bad. So it was not smooth sailing. It is part of the reason that they rolled things out in tracks, as to try to fix things as we were going along. So sometime that summer, Kevin Boxberger, who was the regional defender at IDS at the time, he's now a judge in Wake County, and then myself, we did a presentation about what we could figure out up to that point using e-courts for defenders and those that are doing civil litigation. So we were all trying to figure it out, is what I'm getting at. So they kept rolling it out. They're fixing issues as they came up, probably not fast enough. We did roll out tracks 1 through 10, the last one being track 10 with Iredell County, Alexander County, and Harry Johnson, October 13th, 2025. And when the system did not go down, when Terry Johnson logged in, you guys, I love Terry. She has the worst luck with technology, and I was kind of counting on her to be the person to to break e-courts. But for the record, since this is being recorded, I need everybody to know Terry knows what she's doing. Okay, having said that, it's her aura, it's her magnetic field, did not break e-courts. And as of October 13th, 2025, North Carolina did become the first e-courts state, meaning that all statewide operations were based in the cloud. So at this point, this means I, as part of track 1, have been using it for 3 years now. Terry has been using it for, I think it's like something like 6 months. There are still issues that need to be worked out, but we have worked out a lot of the issues. I have a little note in my presentation materials. If you want, put it into the chat what you actually like about e-courts. Mine would be, I am now able to, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but I am now able to do my best work after 5 p.m. We'll talk about boundaries in the mental health training that OJD will, I'm sure, do after I say things like that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the terminology that's being used so that we're all on the same page. We've got Tyler Technologies. That is the parent company that won the contract to implement this stuff. Then we have Enterprise Justice, which is the word I need you to know, the 2 words I need you to know. The fact that it says powered by Odyssey, just fun, confusing little thing, but Enterprise Justice is the actual product that we use here in North Carolina. E-courts is what I'll call the name of the project as done by the North Carolina Administrative Office of the Courts. Okay, so that's our word for the project. So then here are words about like the actual things that we're using. We've got Odyssey ICMS, Integrated Case Management System. We just call it Odyssey, that are used by the public defenders and district attorneys, as well as, of course, the judges and clerks. And I'm not going to say all the state or government employees. You'll see why. But that is where we hear words like tasks and queues, attorney manager, case manager. Those words are associated with Odyssey. Then we have portal and file and serve, which are what the private defense bar are using to see or file into their files. It is also what DJJ, your court counselor's offices, are using, even though they are in fact government employees. It's been a point of contention, so to speak. We have e-warrants, guide and file, things like that. Those are, law enforcement, pro se litigants, like we talked about. That's not really within our world so much. Okay, and then we have, there we go, we have security levels. So elevated access is one of the most important things that we're going to talk about today. That is a security feature. We, in the past, have talked about confidential versus sealed, and those terms apply as well. Some things are, our files are confidential, but sometimes we're going to want to go ahead and seal documents. There's what we would label as public access, even though juvenile cases are confidential. And then there's a term called public, not portal, if you've heard that. I will get into that. And then what I want you to know is that there are 5 other security levels that I've actually asked. I did a training yesterday on e-file where these came up, and they were like, don't worry about it. You're never going to need it. So I'm not worrying about it until we need it. Those are, okay, those are kind of big words. to make sure that we know are associated with all this. Diving in, the high-level overview. The private defense bar is using Portal. Let me take a step back. The only option for the private defense bar is Portal and then File and Serve, aka e-file. Portal is where we're viewing cases. This is like you're looking through the shuck, and technically registration is not required to be able to use Portal at a surface level. It is recommended that attorneys register for it. You can save your cases that way. However, in our world with delinquency cases, registration is required because we're going to have that elevated access piece of things that let us see confidential cases. File and serve, so e-file, is where we file into the cases. So that's when, back old school days when we were handing the clerk our motion for them to file it. Under all circumstances, registration is required for file and serve. There are things, there's what's called a firm account if you're a lawyer or staff, but also pro se litigants or just non-court personnel can get an individual account for file and serve. I said that this is the only option that's available for the private defense bar because it's actually those of us that use Odyssey, the APDs basically that use Odyssey, we actually have access to Portal and to File and Serve, and I still use them. So Portal, I might look up a case on my phone really quick. I can't do that through Odyssey on my phone. If I don't have my laptop, I'm not going to be able to see, I'm not going to be able to use Odyssey anywhere else. And File and Serve, to be very honest with you, is actually easier to file into a case than using Odyssey. The thing that everybody should know is that if you have Portal and then File and Serve accounts, if you have an issue with your actual account and not the case itself, but your account, it's actually going to be Tyler Technologies that you're going to reach out to for help with that account, not AOC. Okay, quick glance at what Portal looks like, and I will jump into details later, but this is one of my favorite parts of Portal. You have to prove you're a human by choosing the buckets. Buckets. Okay, you chose your buckets. You get a really kind of pretty graphic user interface to navigate through Portal. The one you're most likely going to use, the one that I'm using, sitting in court trying to look somebody up, is that Smart Search. It'll pull up a panel where you type in the thing you're looking for, typically a name. It'll pop right up for you. You click on that highlight for, Jane Doe's case out of Mecklenburg County, and you get a quick summary of what the charge is, some biographical information possibly, as well as you go down further, you can click on the documents themselves. So if I wanted to see the actual order of assignment, I could just click that red PDF icon. If you have your elevated access and you're looking at your own case when it's confidential, so all delinquency cases, you'll still be able to see it in Portal, and it'll look just a little different. You'll still scroll down, you'll still be able to see the documents in there, but instead of that red PDF icon, you're going to get this little white and yellow lock icon. That's a visual indicator to you that you can see it because you have the elevated access, but others can't. So even in Portal, you can still access, well, of course, that makes sense, right? If you're the attorney of record, you're going to be able to access your files. File and Serve, where we're putting into the case, you will find your case, file into it. You get a screen like this where you choose some options, what it's going to be, how you want to file it, whether you want to serve it. If you are trying to file into your delinquency cases, you're still going to be able to do it through File and Serve, and I'm going to go into this in more detail. You're just not going to see the name of the case, but all of this is an option with delinquency cases as well. Okay, what does it look like when we're using Odyssey? We do our sign-in screen. We get the 2019 tutorial videos that they've not yet really updated. This is our screen that we use the most. I think it's sort of home base for most of us, where we will search for our case. Easiest way, I think, is by case number. This is what it looks like when we click on our case. So here's that same Jane Doe out of Mecklenburg County case. That is a real case, by the way. I searched for a Jane Doe, and that's apparently what happened. But you'll see the icons look similar. You've got the red PDF icon that you can click on. One thing I will point out that's different, at the very, very top, you'll see summary, detailed parties, charges. There are some things that we can see in Odyssey that don't show up in Portal. Is that okay? No. Is that an equal access to courts issue? Yes. Is it weird that it's actually the public defenders that get a little bit more information than the private bar? Yes, we'll take it this time. This is what it looks like if we have a delinquency case. That's our case, and we click on it. So the corollary screen, as you can see, again, it's the icon is a little bit different, indicating to me that I can see the case because I am the attorney of record. And then just to make sure I'm covering all the bases, generally speaking, that we will use Odyssey also to file into a case. There's a screen, and I will go into more detail, where we would add the document and then submit it as a queue. But this is what it looks like for us on our end. Okay, that was the 3,000-foot overview. I know I flew through that. I think OJD is going to be able to make the PDF version of the PowerPoints available. So those screens, because they're stacked like that, are going to be useless to you, but hopefully the rest of these screens going forward, if you need to look back or reference the recording, will be helpful. Elevated access, the single most important piece of the puzzle for attorneys working on delinquency cases and using the enterprise justice systems. Elevated access is the official flag on your name in the system that says you are allowed to see this confidential case. So it's done on the AOC A264. Like I said, it's for confidential files. So it's not only the delinquency proceedings, it's A&D, special proceedings, if they're protective order matters, all of those things that are confidential. Elevated access is the mechanism by which we're going to be able to see them. It is associated with your bar number. So you give them your bar number when you're doing the elevated access, and that's how the, I believe also how the clerks associate the case with your name. Your information is actually pulled from the state bar directory for all cases that your name goes on. And I actually just found out that information is updated each Friday, so once a week. If your information on the state bar is incorrect, that's the information that's going to go on Portal. That's the information that's going to go on the summons. So make sure your information with the state bar directory is correct and what you want your clients to be seeing. And I'll tell you, while there are a lot of instructions and specific step-by-step instructions of how to actually achieve getting your elevated access status, you do it through e-file. Those steps are on the back of the AOC form. I'm going to show you what it looks like, but I want to make sure to say elevated access is not helpful with e-file. It's only helpful for Portal as well as APDs when you're using Odyssey. Here's the front of your form. As you can see, the information you're putting in is not very much, but there's a whole lot of things that you're agreeing to. I'm pretty sure your firstborn child is somewhere in there, maybe number 6 or 7. This is the back of the form. If I know it's small on the screen, what I want you to get out of this is that steps 1 through 20 are very particularly listed out for you to be able to submit your request for elevated access. If there's one thing you get out of our conversation today, is that if you want to see your delinquency matters, you need to apply for elevated access. Practice tips, reality. Here's one of my biggest frustrations. When you get your elevated access and your clerks associate you onto a case, you're not getting access to all of your child's charges, particularly across counties. Some clerks will go ahead and associate you with, everything, if that's appropriate, within that county, but you're not getting access across counties. We used to. JWise, we used to be able to see what they had going on for, at least for any of the counties that were inputting the information into JWise. We've lost that. So anybody who takes issue with that, let's talk, because I want to raise our voices about that. We need to be able to have that access, especially when everybody else does. Also, elevated access doesn't actually grant you access to see inactive cases, so older cases that your kiddo may have had. Our clerks will inactivate a case when we're finished with them. I don't think that's appropriate, and so it's something that I want you to know about, the 100 different ways that 100 different counties can do this, and be aware that if a clerk chooses to inactivate a case, you're no longer going to be able to see it, even if you were the attorney of record at the time and with elevated access. Reminder that as soon as your ADA types in your child's name, they can see all of their charges across all the counties in the state. Also know that that APDs, that the administrative staff in your office and your chief may already be taking care of applying for the elevated access portion for you. Private attorneys, you got to do it yourself. And before I move on, the only other place I could think to stick this little thought, when you're registering on Portal, at the very end, it's going to have you, it'll say, what's your credit card information? Don't worry about it. If you're doing civil stuff, where you're going to have to actually pay filing fees, fine, put a credit card or bank account in. You don't have to put in information. You create what's called a waiver account, and you'll see that option pop up when you go through the steps. You create a waiver account because in indigent cases, and particularly with youth that are presumed indigent by statute, we're not worried about court costs or anything like that. Okay, next topic. How do I find a case? I have thought of sort of 5, actually kind of 6 different topics. You can search by file number, you can search by their name or date of birth, NC join number. We'll talk about partial name searches, and then I want to show you how you can also search by your bar number. And then number 6 that I didn't put on my little graphic is also calendar. So this part, the left half of the screen for the next few slides, is going to be what Portal looks like. And then the right side of the screen is going to be what Odyssey looks like. So if you're in Portal, you're trying to look into your case. This is the once you get logged in, the first thing you see really is this smoke search. If you click where it says advanced filtering options, it'll give you more options underneath. But your very, very, very basic search at the top where it says search criteria, smart search criteria, you can put in the person's name, or you can search by case number. Same thing, similar in Odyssey. You'll go to find, case, and then either case manager or attorney manager, and that will bring you to a screen that looks like this. If you choose attorney manager, I think it's called control number instead of case number, but you can search by the case number or by the name in the second section. For both of these options, search by their name only if you're sure of how it's spelled. This is not a partial name search. There's actually a separate screen for that. So asterisks or different spellings aren't going to bring up what you need. This is, if you're searching by a name on this base screen, you search by the exact name. Number 2, searching by their, okay, so number 1 was searching by their file number. Number 2 is searching by their name. On the file number, I did forget to mention, you have to put in that 3-digit county code to be able to find the actual case. So it's like, 25 JB 000001, and then your 3-digit county code. Same screen for the name search. You can pair a name with a date of birth. So if you have a child named John Smith, that's going to bring up a lot of cases. But if you plug in their date of birth, then it's going to narrow it down to probably just your child. Same screen, basically all the same buttons. Searching by join number. This is one of my favorite ways to search in Odyssey in particular. So where that little orange block thingy came up showing you where the button for use advanced search is, you'll click on that. When you click on it, it expands your search criteria to give you a lot more searching options. You go down kind of, what is that, 1, 2, third section where it says other agency. Type in the actual number in the first block, and then in the drop-down menu, you're choosing NC Join. And that's all you need to put. Don't put name or file number or anything. You can just search by their NC Join number, and it should pull up everything that's not been inactivated by the clerks for you to see. To do this in Portal, I'm sorry, I've got nothing. I'm sorry to the private defense bar. I was not able to find any which way possible to search by the NC Join number. Best I can offer is if that's something you absolutely like, that is going to get you the information you need. You can't find it any other way. Reach out. Maybe DJJ can help you or something, or your ADA if you have a good. I was going to say reach out to us, but they're confidential files, so we won't be able to help you. But maybe your ADA might be able to help. Although I don't know if you want them to know what you're about to find out. So this is definitely a tricky part, and another, I guess, what we'll throw in the pool of unequal access to the courts. Partial name searches. This is for when you're not 100% sure of how their name is spelled, or the clerks have put their name in 2 different spellings and you want to pull everything up, something like that. On your screen, you'll go down here and you'll change filter by search type, and you'll put in party name. You choose party name, which changes the top section of your search to separate out last name, first name. And this is where you can use asterisks. That's a hard word to say, y'all. Asterisks. So, you know, Smith, great. But then if their first name is D'Angelo, maybe you put the first 3 or 4 letters and then asterisks, so that whatever version of the name the clerks put into the system or was on the petition will go ahead and load for you. Similarly, in Odyssey, you're navigating to find party, case manager, or attorney manager. The difference here is that you're finding a party, not finding a case. This is the screen that comes up. And again, now you can actually use the asterisk, gracious, to look for that child. This searching by your bar number, this is, it's going to be overwhelming, the results that you get. Again, find case manager or attorney manager in Odyssey. This is the screen you're getting. It's down there. It's right at the bottom. Type in your bar number. There's mine for the whole world to see. It is a potentially, it's one of the options for double checking your calendars to see that you're not missing something. If the clerks have not deactivated a case or marked it as closed or changed it to the new attorney, or many other things that can happen, you'll see some things that maybe just aren't relevant to you, but you can filter down, for example, only active cases, or, you know, between such and such dates, those kinds of things, to be an extra tool in your toolkit to manage your cases. In Portal, similarly, you'll go back down to filter by search type and choose attorney bar number. When you type in your bar number, it will populate. Portal, this searching by your bar number, Portal does a better job than Odyssey on this as well. Okay, so the calendars, I promised I would show you that as well. If you're in Portal and you want to see calendars, you're going to go to search hearings, and it's going to give you this box. fill it in. I mean, just go through each of those options and pick the option that makes sense. I tend to just do all hearing types and then narrow it down by courtroom. We only have one courtroom that's dedicated to delinquency in Wake County, so that's an easy one for me. I just choose courtroom 4B. I'll say, show me everything that's coming up in the next month. And it will populate. Now, you're only going to see your cases that are in 4B within that time frame. It's not going to show you anybody else's. So it's not going to show you the whole calendar. And that makes sense, right? Because these cases are confidential. So it's only going to show you yours, but it's another way to make sure you're not missing cases, for example. In Odyssey, you're going to Tools, Scheduling, View Calendar. It will give you, I think it defaults to maybe the 1 month view. Up here at the top, there's a little bit tiny button that says Calendar. You click on that. That is what that says, Calendar. You click on that and tell it, it's basically asking you again which courtroom's calendar you want to see. So I chose 4B, that's where our delinquency court is. It shows me this, and then if I click on one of those in particular, this is the screen that comes up for me. As you can see, everything says confidential. I can't tell what's going on that day in court necessarily because those are not my cases. But I can see at least that there's, X number of cases on any given day. If any of those were my cases, the name of the case, the child's name would show up, the file number, I could click on it, I could go into the case so that I can say, okay, this is what I need to do with that case. More practical tips. If you don't see a case that you're expecting to see, I can basically guarantee it has something to do with being properly associated with that case. So there's PD access and then there's clerk access to assigning you to a case, and they're actually separate things. So even if the PD's office has said, well, I put your name on the case, it's not always going to be enough. The clerks honestly are the top of the food chain. Once they click the right buttons, you should be able to see it. But if you're having issues, check with both. Here is one of this is probably my number 2. After elevated access, this is the biggest, I think, issue we see with delinquency cases after having transitioned to e-courts. So DJJ, they generally, most cases, they generate the petitions, they generate those secure custody orders if that's happening, but they cannot create the actual case itself. Even if they, really know how to use e-file and they say, create new case, everything, it's still up to the clerks to do the magic wand swish and create the case. Until that case is created, you as the attorney, even if you're assigned to it, you can't see it in Odyssey, in Portal, until it's actually created. So if you have a file that is picked up at Friday, 5:30 p.m. when the clerks have gone home, all the paperwork is generated, that child is in secure custody, and you're having the hearing on Monday morning, you're really not, it's not likely you're going to be able to see the file itself because of the way these processes work. So my 2 cents to you is to have a good relationship with your DJJ or possibly even your clerks so that somebody can maybe just email you the papers, the petition, the report, the secure custody order, so that you can be prepared for that secure custody hearing, even if you can't access the case itself yet. So that is another sort of point in a weak point, if you will, in the system that we as defenders need to be aware of and have some options of wiggling around to make sure we're doing the best that we can for our kiddos. Which, that's a great segue into the next topic, filing motions or anything else. And I think I saw something come through the chat about showing some details. Here's where I'm going to show you as much detail as my 1 hour of time will allow, but I'm also going to have some resources for you at the end that really, really, really go into detail. Okay, so now we're in e-file. We were in Portal earlier. Now we're in e-file. Different web link, different, just completely different. It's a whole nother piece of the puzzle. You click by starting on start filing. You will always be filing into an existing case. You're never, with delinquency matters, you're never going to be creating the case. Somebody already, your child already created the case. And then the clerks gave it a number. Okay. You get this screen. My sort of 2 cents for you on this is, number one, obviously you're going to pick your location. It's going to be district court of whichever county you're in, not the clerk of court, but district court. And you're always, always, always going to search by case number. You'll see why in a second. I actually showed you earlier as well. These are confidential cases. You cannot search by the party name. For delinquency case, you must search by case number. Type your case number in, including your 3-digit county, what is it called? County identifier. There's a hyperlink there. If for some reason you don't know what like if you're looking for, I don't know how you would look for another county. I'm going down a rabbit hole. Coming back out of the rabbit hole. You typed your number in, you double, triple, quadruple checked that the number is correct, because once you pull it up, as you can see, there's no real way to confirm that is the case you're looking for. You have to be absolutely sure about that case number. So you type your case number in, it pulls it up. On the button over there on the right side under actions, you'll click actions and then file into case. File into case with template is not as useful as it sounds, but there are some times where it could be helpful. For the most part, you're going to file into the case. You will have, and this is probably where you're going to want me to go into more detail, but I am going to gloss over this. You're going to have 6. Very good, Terry. I saw, yes, that link, exactly. You have 6 different options, not options, but steps rather, of what you're going to, information you're going to put in. The case information is just you're confirming that the asterisks are correct. Parties are pre-populated filings. Number 3, this is the screen that comes up. You have the option to just file into the case, or this tool to me is invaluable. You can e-file and serve through the e-file system. You put the information in that you need. So filing code is generally going to be something like a motion or a proposed order. You can or don't have to put in information in those next numbers. Comments to the court, that sounds scary and ex parte. It's not. I mean, the way it sounds it is, but it's actually just going to the clerks. So it's okay, but I wouldn't count on anybody actually either reading or paying attention to that. Plus there's no accountability on that part of it. You go through, you upload your documents. It'll give you options to do that. That uploading of the documents is where you're going to pick the security code. Y'all, on delinquency cases, it's fine. It's public because the entire case is confidential. If you need to seal a document, maybe, but that's going to take a motion and an order anyway. So generally speaking, you upload it, 99% of the time it's going to be public. The other thing I love about e-file that, again, Odyssey does not do, these communications down here at the bottom. You can, when you press submit for e-filing and it sends the document to the clerk, the preliminary copies box down at the bottom will send a preliminary copy to whoever you say. I like to stick my name in there as a paper trail, electronic paper trail, but still. Courtesy copy is once the clerk accepts the filing and it gets that file stamp actually put onto it. The file stamp is when you hit submit, but it doesn't actually get stamped onto it until the clerk accepts the filing. Courtesy copy is where you get a copy of it with that. That's a really good place to put your legal assistant's email address if you want them to put save or print. Maybe save the trees. Save into your file for your child, for your client. How does this look in Odyssey when we're trying to file into a case? First, we got to find the case. So we go find, and then we go case for attorney manager. The top of the screen that comes up when you find your file has a bajillion options. You'll click the little sideways arrow gadget thingy to keep going all the way until you find documents. Meanwhile, we're all waiting for the little spinny wheel of death to keep going every time we click something. You'll get on your documents screen, you'll get something like this. You'll go over here where the little plus mark is, click that so that you can upload the document that you're trying to file. This does not make sense if you think too hard about it, so just don't think too hard about it. Then once it's uploaded, you'll go over to the side, you'll create a task, and then this just got changed, I don't know, I think 2 weeks ago, and of course I had to sit there and figure it all out again. Uncheck filter by case node. No explanation for you guys as to why, just do it. Uncheck that, and then you're going to put in or select from the list the proper queue. How do you figure out which queue to send it to? You ask your clerks. They give you the answer, and you say thank you and choose that queue. Okay, practical tips when we're talking about filing. So like I said, you guys, e-file allows for service within the process of filing. While Odyssey can send motions or whatever it is as a task to the prosecutor, that's not service. Like I said, e-file can create a paper trail for you. Whether you put your name at the bottom or not, you're going to still get some emails. So you're going to have a paper trail of your submission of the document or the motion. And when it's accepted by the clerk, and Odyssey does not do that either. The other thing, for those of you that like the rules and the technicalities and the statutes, reference the general rules of practice 5 and 5.1, because it talks about relief from, I am seeing some great questions coming into the chat. It talks about relief from electronic filing requirements if there's an emergency, which means there are reasons you could just hand your paper to the clerk and say, help, please. There are rules about private information that has to be redacted, especially if you're doing cases other than delinquency matters. And there's an explanation of what counts as service, what doesn't, what you need to do or not do when we're talking about service for enterprise justice. Ex parte motions. How do I get it into the file without the prosecutor seeing or knowing that there's something that's sealed in the file? How do I do it without everybody else seeing what I'm asking? Yay! We get to do a wet signature on this. This is especially for the newer counties where the judges are still figuring out some of these processes. If you need, Nikki Milton from AOC has given official guidance that we can forward to you that you can show your judges. But this is one of the few things that just uniformly, you get a wet signature on anything that's an ex parte request. Our most common, I think probably most common ex parte request is for experts, for funding for experts. That's the AOC G309. And whether that's what you're asking for or not, I want to draw your attention to this language at the bottom. The motion submitted by counsel in this order shall be sealed, and counsel shall retain the sealed motion and order while the case is pending, and then file both within 30 days of disposition. That language is what allows you to hold on to it and not put it into the file. This existed before e-courts, so this was also for paper files until the case is actually over. So whatever you're asking for ex parte, include that language. You get your wet signature and then you hold on to it until the case is over, and then you file it into the case. And Nikki's specific advice on that is once you're ready to file it in, you upload it, as standard, like a motion or proposed order, and then you put in the description to the clerk that this was ex parte. Yay, wet signatures. Okay, I think the last few nuanced thoughts or little tasks, exhibits. How do you handle exhibits in the day of electronic everything? And the answer is whatever your clerk and your judges say. Ultimately, when you're using exhibits, you're using them during a hearing. Odds are you're going to need the paper copy to be able to approach the witness or whatever the circumstances are. So then you're going to follow the instructions of your judge and your clerk. I don't believe there's any kind of uniform rule about this, whatever your judge and your clerk say in terms of at the end. Sealing records, we reference this, so like mental health records or PSBs or things like that. Sometimes you want an extra level of no within the file, even though the whole file is confidential. You still do this the same way you were doing it before. It used to be a confidential file before too. You do a motion in order to seal the record. When the judge says okay, then the clerk has buttons on their end that they press. That's as much as I can get technical about what they do, but that's the process. Judge says okay, and the clerk does the thing. You should know that there's a very cool, fancy looking button called My Cases. When you're in Portal, it's that last button on the pretty screen. For delinquency cases, it's absolutely useless. It has been since day one, and it is today. With your adult cases, you can save stuff. You can actually use it for adult cases, but for delinquency cases, it's absolutely useless. All right, what happens when enterprise justice goes down in the middle of a hearing? You throw things, maybe not. Everybody rolls their eyes. I mean, middle of the hearing, you could probably keep going depending on what exactly you're doing. It still happens. So we will actually, a lot of times we'll have a paper copy ready. For example, during a disposition, we'll have the CCA and the DJJ report. We'll have all those like big lengthy documents ready on paper. And if for some reason it goes down, we can hand the judge the paper copy for them to at least read while the system is rebooting or whatever is going on. Obviously, we can't keep going forward until it's finished, but okay. When the PowerPoint gets sent out, you'll be able to see this, but what I want you to know is a few different places that have a whole lot of very detailed how-to informations. That was really bad English. I'm sorry, just strike that. If you go to the nccourts.gov website, at the very top, you click on services and resources. You will be able to, number one, you'll be able to get to Portal and File and Serve. But also, once you, and also if you want to explore like the guide and file appellate court filing site, the business court submissions. But if you, like, for example, you go into Portal, then when you get to Portal, you can click, you go down just a little bit, you click on Portal Training and Resources, and they have all of these. Ooh, I saw a typo. Don't call me out on my typo, y'all. But you can see like Portal Overview Guide, there's an Advanced Overview Guide, there's an FAQs. They have videos all in a playlist, and they do training. So you can click on register for the available trainings, and they'll take 1 or 2 hours to teach you how to use these things. It's actually AOC that does the trainings, not Tyler Tech, but AOC people who have committed themselves to knowing this stuff. Same with File and Serve. If you go to File and Serve and you scroll down, you can see there are all kinds of training materials that they've made available. And the one in particular I want to orange arrow bring your attention to is they have a whole delinquency and undisciplined cases PDF. I want to say it's like 12 pages. That's dedicated to how you're going to file into delinquency cases. And then the last resource I will leave up here, at least, is my email address. Please feel free to reach out to me if I said something that you want to follow up on, but you can't stick around or whatever. But also know that OJD is always available to help either try to solve the problem or get you connected to the right resource for that. Did I is my face back on your screen, y'all? I think so. I'm opening the chat panel. Let's see if there's any sort of easy ones. I saw some great questions. Okay. Filing fee request from book scares me every time. Yes, ma'am. Yes, 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 yes. step-by-step instructions. So, Brooke, the biggest thing I would say is those trainings or the PDFs. See if those are helpful. If what I was able to show you today is not enough. David Andrews, I love your question. Do you know if the clerks make cases inactive when the case is over in district court, but the kid appeals? I 100 answers for that one as to what actually happens. What I believe should be happening is I don't think they really should be making a case inactive at all. There is a difference between completed and inactive. I cannot think of a legitimate reason to inactivate a case. Terry's link. Let me just, Alex, good question, Alex. If we're comfortable using Portal and eFile, do we need to use Odyssey systems, or can we just stay with Portal and eFile? For the most part, you can stay with Portal and eFile. There are a couple of things that Odyssey does or may show. So if you have maybe what I would consider like a highly contested case, I would check Odyssey to make sure it doesn't have any additional information that you can see through Odyssey that you won't be able to see through Portal. But otherwise, go for it. Cole. Ooh, Cole, I gotta make my screen bigger to read your question. How are, it's distributed in your district? Uploaded to Odyssey, but not viewable. Yes. Yes. That's the same that we use in Wake County. They will, in terms of getting it to the judge, they will file it. Our DJJ people will file assessments, anything they need the judge to have into, they're using e-file, and they'll send that to it'll go to the clerk, and our clerks know as part of this process not to accept it until we reach that point in the proceedings. So yes, then we have the same issue because they don't accept it and therefore release it to the judge until we reach disposition, then we can't see it either. So we have not lost the process or the practice of DJJ sending to us in advance. And we have not been able to figure out, I guess, anything else, any other way to save them the effort. We tried, but we've not figured it out. So yes, they are having to do both. They're having to send it to us in advance as well as file it. That is, to some degree, we as attorneys have that obligation as well. If we if we're filing something, we've got to give the DA a copy, a service copy in advance. So things like that. I've hit 2 o'clock.
I don't know how they are doing it here, Bersha, but I'm actually getting an email from Tyler Technology saying a filing was generated. So I get an email that is not directly from the court counselor. I get one from Tyler Technology. So they're somehow releasing the Yazzie, all of the disposition reports to me through their filing process. It's not going to the DA, it's not going to the judge, but it is coming to me.
It could be that they're using the courtesy copy or preliminary copy option. And actually that would be a solution. And now I'm going to take that back to Wake County. They need to do that far enough in advance for you to have time to review it, right? The appropriate amount of time. But then the clerk needs to know that they're going to have to hold on to that filing. That envelope is what they call it, until it gets to that point. So as long as everybody's on the same page about how to do it, yes, I think when DJJ uses e-file, they could make use of the preliminary copy and or courtesy copy functions to have it sent to the attorney of record. Alex, I search in a file in Portal, try to open a prior filing like a court order. I sometimes get error code 141011. Oh, Alex, I know exactly what that is. Also, that's sarcasm. I don't know what that is. The result of error by the clerk in posting the order in Portal, or is there a problem with my Portal account? I think what I would do is just ask the clerk if they can see it, if they can see the file on their end. If they can see the file on their end, then I would investigate your end, if that makes sense. But I have no idea what 141011 is. You've been saving that one. You saw the training coming up on the blog post and you were like, ooh, I need to save this. Fee requests. So fee requests. Brooke, I've got a couple answers for you. Number one, we don't do fees in delinquency court in Wake County, so I don't have hands-on experience. We do, but we don't. We're on a max system, even for the private attorneys. And obviously as an APD, mine don't go in there anyway. I believe the answer to this is it's the same as everything else. But there's a little part of my brain that says something about it might be a wet signature. I don't think it's a wet signature, but how about I write this one down and I try to figure out the answer. Brooke, yes. I thought at one point when I was playing around with it, I thought I saw fee request as one of the options in the drop down. If it's not an option, then yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be a motion. The thing is, like anything that you send through e-file, it doesn't matter how wrong you get it, or how right you get it, the clerks on their end can change it. So if they see a fee app come through, your clerks might have the best answer to that. What track are you in? How long have you guys been on eCourts? Oh, and then the other thought I had about Burke, very new. Okay. Yep. The other thought the sort of corollary is obviously we want you to get paid as the attorney. So you do have to have, some mechanism for that. And unless you're a MAC or otherwise contractor type county, then that is the mechanism. I hope your judges are not assessing those fees to the parents in any way, right? Yeah. If they are, Eric needs to know. I'll look that up kind of a little bit further and send you an email. Good. Okay, good. My heart rate is calming down a little bit, not assessing those fees to the parents. Good. Then the other thing is then also, if you are still doing fee apps, chat with OJD about if your county, has enough defenders or whatever for MAC contracts. They kind of, if I remember correctly, they bypass the fee app system altogether. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. Here, I'm creating more work for you at OJD. You're welcome. There you go. There's Terry's, because Terry, that's your territory, right? Yeah. So for those that are new or haven't heard it before, the way OJD does it, Terry's territory today in words, Terry's territory is sort of like the western side-ish of North Carolina. So each of those counties that are in her territory, she makes it a point to get to know them. And
technically I'm central now, but
all right, but Burke is still yours.
We have a couple of counties that we're helping each other with.
Got it. Okay. Point is, you've got at least one, if not two, of the three folks at OJD that are focusing on helping each county with in any way that county can benefit from support. And by county, I do mean the defenders. Other questions that I can try to answer? Cool.
Okay,
Well, you
yeah,
guys have got email addresses. Yep, there you go. Terry, back to you.
if there's no other questions, then just be looking for your email or checking your emails because we will be sending out a link with the course evaluation on it. Again, if you registered properly but forgot to put your bar number in, please send us that because we will need it for CLE credit. But otherwise, thank you all very much. We will also be having some upcoming CLEs and webinars that will be posted on our website. So just check the website anytime you are looking for trainings because we are always available to help. And I put my email and phone numbers in the chat so that we could have consultations if people needed.
Good link from Eric in the chat, the training calendar.
Mhm.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Bersha and also thanks to Amanda for jumping in and helping us with the recording and getting everything set up today.
My pleasure.
Here we are.